is some guy, Rob Russo, some leftist based in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Two, check. Check 2. The streamer is pointing, so I need to make you a bit bigger. Can you be behind there a little bit? Is that like... You can do that, right? Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? And thank you, Left Flank Vets, for the raid. Thanks. I'm assuming Marcus from the barrage of candy lickers that I just saw in the chat. Thank you, Marcus, for the raid. I appreciate it. Thank you, Tardiclet. Thank you. I'm Rob, everyone. Hello, it's nice to meet you. It's nice to have you here.
You're gonna have good old
Thanks for
Rob
joining
to
me.
talk you through all this.
How do I get out of this coal contract?
Thanks for the 10 months, tier 1. That's something you're gonna have to take to our support team. That's not something that I can handle personally. I would open a ticket on that to see if you can get a response from someone in the support team. Sometimes it does take a couple of weeks to get there, but that's what I would encourage you to do. Thank you again, Take a Rio. And again, for the raiders, if you've not been here before, I'm Rob. Please smash the follow button. Please smash the follow button, or gently touch it, gently caress it, press it more firmly, smash it, whatever forcefulness that you want to use. Please do that to the follow button. Thank you. So yeah, I guess if we made the rest of the logo semi-transparent, it's just this was made by a community member, Dave Legend. And Dave Legend, if you're there, I hope Dave shows up today. It's so cool, and I don't want to make Dave do too much shit here. He already made this really cool logo. So we'll see. Maybe for now, chat just needs to be a bit smaller. Maybe you just need to be up here. Yeah. That's fine. That's fine. You're all there. We see you. You think the overlap looks cool? I'm undecided on it. I'm not sure. We'll play around with it. Okay? Thanks again to Dave for doing this logo, though. I think it's so cool. It's the original logo that Marty did, and then Dave animated into this cool, globe news thing. I kind of like the overlap, too, but it was also bugging me. No, it's not helpful. No, it's not helpful, Sean. No, it is not. Shit. So I hope you're all doing well, folks. I hope you're all doing well. I gotta eat my lunch. Did I bring my Coke? Oh, shit. One sec. The triangle could be more pyramid shaped. That I don't think would be good. But I'll take that. I'll take that under advisement. Someone bring in the Cokes. Thank you, Chai. What kind of service around here? Where are my interns? Yeah, I need the Trump DC button. That would really be the when eventually we do the TRRS compound. You know, this when we have the TRRS compound, then I'll have the Diet Coke button with little vacuum tube. To bring one to me. So I got some lunch here. I made some noodles before we started. I made some noodles with peanut sauce. Yes. I'm here in Toronto and I'm already getting reports that CCP cadres are being embedded in City Hall as we speak. That would be so sick if that was true. Maybe Toronto can finally have some infrastructure now. What is it, the Yonge and Eglinton construction? Maybe you can finally finish that. Welcome to the China debt trap. Sad. Very sad. I would like some Chinese debt trap loans. Absolutely. Me too. I'd be happy with some of those. Chin, folks. I was out walking yesterday and I fell and China came by on a motorcycle and helped me up, so I'm pretty pro-she into my leg heels. Cool. Very friendly. What's your recipe for peanut sauce noodles? Well, I'm glad you asked that, Swamp Goth. I'm glad you asked that. I just discovered this recipe a few weeks ago. I've always wanted a good peanut sauce recipe, and I never really knew how to do it, and I never really investigated either. I found this recipe on TikTok. It's so you a scoop of peanut butter, rice wine vinegar, little splash of that, a little splash of sesame oil, a little splash of soy sauce, little thing of sugar. Pinch of sugar, or depending on how sweet you want it to be, a little bit of chili crisp. You do that in the bowl. Add some hot water to that. A spoon, like a tablespoon, or maybe a bit more hot water. Mix it all together. Add in the noodles, and you add some chili crisp on top. And usually, you want to add spring onion on top too, so it gives you the color, and you have some onion on there as well. But I didn't have any of those. I didn't have any spring onion, unfortunately, so that would have been nice to throw in there. Maybe some cilantro could be good as well. Yeah, same moist outlets. And you can add you could add chicken thighs or tofu or veg to this, obviously. That's the base, but then you can add all kinds of good shit to it. This is very satisfying right now. You know what I really love is the the peanut sauce with the crispy spinach. The crispy spinach. I don't know how to make that though. I wonder if you can just like get that in bags or something. Throw that in there as well. That would be very tasty. This is very good. This is very good. Just the only thing I would change about this, besides having some green onion to throw in there, the only sorry, I'm almost done. Some bok choy, of course. Big bok choy guy over here. Big bok choy guy. One of my favorite things.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Tasty noodles. Tasty, tasty, tasty noodles.
Thank you, Weenus. Thank you to Weenus for the 22 months of Prime. 22 months, Weenus. Very, very close. Very, very close to the 24-month elite exclusive shimmering golden 24-month 2-year TRRS.
You can count on
badge.
me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Bok choy deeply underrated in the white people world. I agree. Since I started using it, since I started eating it like regular, I always like it in my Chinese food, but since I started getting it at the grocery store, I pick it up every time, and it's always like, it's so versatile and so good. Yeah, you crisp it in the sesame oil with some soy sauce and spices. You can throw it in a soup just to boil. You can, there's so many different things you can do with it. No, the only thing about this though is that the only Lao Gan Ma I had left is the the black bean kind, which was fine, but ideally I think the peanut Lao Gan Ma would have been better for that, for peanut sauce noodles. It was still good, but I eat so much of that shit. Like, I've never eaten a condiment more. Like, since I discovered Lao Gan Ma, I've gone through like 3 jars of it. Or something ludicrous like that. That was very good. That was a very nice lunch. Ugh. That was very satisfying. I wanted to get that out of the way quick because we got a shorter timeline these days. Again, if you're just joining the stream, and sorry, I gotta give some more thanks here. Where are my manners? Thank you, Diego, for the 2 gifted subs as well. Thank you very much, Diego, for the 2 gifted subs. Why is it doing that? Yeah, so I'm on a shorter timeline right now. My kid is in summer camp right now. He's doing a 2 weeks of theater camp. And, I don't want to brag too much here. They are going to be doing a performance of Beauty and the Beast. And he just so happens to be playing the role of the Beast. No big deal. Just the lead role. Whatever. No biggie.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
PLZ clap.
Hey, Alana, thank you very much for the 25 months resub at tier 2. Thank you, Alana. He's gonna kill it. Yeah, no, I'm excited for him. He's so fascinated with acting. He really wants to be an actor. And that's something I want to encourage too, because like that was one I've talked about it before, but like that was something I really kind of wanted to get into acting when I was younger, and I just kind of never really knew how to do that, and you know, I just never really, not something I ever pursued. I pursued doing music, and I pursued doing all kinds of interesting stuff, live streaming and all this shit, but like it's really something that I wanted to get into and just never did. How are they going to work in the vat of acid? I don't know. Maybe you can throw Gaston into a vat of acid at the end or something. And then they can do one of those fake endings where you think it's over, but then like, and they're like embracing, and the beast turns back into a human, but then Gaston comes out of the acid and he's all disfigured and he's like, ugh, and they have to do a final battle. Maybe I should suggest that. I used to do home movies and shit, pretending to host shows and stuff. Yeah, me too. I did all kinds of stuff like that. I mean, it's funny for me. I used to like record my voice and pretend I was doing radio shows. So that's one thing I did kind of pursue. It's cool, and it's cool for me that I get to do this kind of stuff. There's a decent TV film industry in Montreal. You could be child actor dad. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know how I feel about kids doing that kind of stuff, but it is something that he like really wants to do. Or if Gaston's hand come up from the grave and the end screen says "The End" with a question mark, that's nice. That's good too. A lot of options here we can pitch. I'm gonna show up at the theater camp, look with my beret on, be like, I think I'll take over directing duties. That's why I've really enjoyed doing. I did one segment of Monologue Monday like a month ago, the new segment Monologue Monday, and then 4 Mondays have passed, I think, since that time, and I have not done a monologue. I thought I did a good job on my Eric Bogosian monologue from Talk Radio. I was quite happy with that, actually. What are we going to do now that Mao 2.0 has taken over Toronto? Will the CCP really win? Well, I don't know. Especially if you're a Toronto landlord right now, I would be making plans to get out of Dodge. Just give away your property. Just give away your property and get out, because you don't know what's going to happen. Still waiting for the newsroom monologue? I can do a Jeff newsroom. I can do that. I could do a Jeff newsroom monologue. Speaking of Mao 2.0, has anyone read Xi's book, volume 1 to 4? No, but considering how much we talk about him, I would like to read it, though. I'm just looking at the Jeff newsroom monologue. Now I'm wondering if I should do it. My neighbor went on a rant about how his family was in Gulag and were essentially slaves. I didn't have the balls to ask if they were landlords. It's really funny. I don't know if anyone saw the tweet that was going around that was like, look at this high rise in China where there's 20,000 people inside, and there's amenities and grocery stores and all this kind of stuff available inside the complex. It's another new gulag, and it's like, that doesn't sound like a gulag at all to me. It's like a luxury apartment building with like groceries and all kinds of all the stuff that you could possibly need. It's just right there. That actually sounds quite convenient and a pretty good way to house a large number of people, considering we need housing. It's actually good, I think, to have big apartment buildings that thousands of people can live in, and that have like, amenities and groceries and different things inside there that you might need. I actually don't think that's that bad. Americans seem disturbed by how cool everyone was with it. I mean, it goes back to the whole like 15-minute city thing, and there's literally people that are like, it's basically slavery to make it so I don't have to sit in my car for 90 minutes every day. Driving around to my work, driving around to the grocery store, driving around to wherever else. It's basically, I'm essentially a slave if I don't have to do that. Yeah, it's really weird, isn't it, Kinky Window? It's really bizarre to me, especially when it comes to China. Look at how terrifying this is. It's literally just a big apartment building. I mean, there's not satellite paved over miles of old farmland. You can really put them in the same complex you lived in. Where's the freedom? Yeah, exactly. It's only freedom when you have like suburban sprawl just going on as far as the eye can see. Paved over with concrete and throw in a bunch of strip malls and bullshit. A bunch of McMansions. That's the only thing freedom that exists. Yeah, okay, I get what you mean. Yeah. Satellite malls. I guess I would have said strip malls. The moment I see one of those fuckers try ragging on the little automated snack trucks. Exactly. Like, look at this. Here's the tweet that I'm talking about. I'm just going to put the title here because we're going to talk about Olivia Chow and the Toronto mayor's race. But this is worth pointing out, though, because this is the kind of terrifying, techno-dystopian future that CCP agent Olivia Chow is going to bring to the city of Toronto. Really scary stuff. See, this looks better, right? $20,000 people live in this building in China. It has supermarkets, shops, hairdressers, pharmacies, the 15-minute gulag in a single building. Gulags famously had supermarkets and hairdressers in them. And you were, of course, able to come and go as you please. Yeah, the music is good. I don't know. Again, these cities with millions of people, you might have noticed the tent encampments popping up in all of them because there's nowhere for people to live. And the people the places that there are available to live are way too expensive and unaffordable for anyone to live in. So maybe building some few giant buildings like this where, folks could go live. And, you don't need a car to get around because you can just go to the groceries. You can go to the green space outside, It's going to cut down on emissions. It's going to give people a place to live. All your precious public spaces won't have homeless people in them because the homeless people will have homes. I know that's a crazy idea for some people. They just want the police to come and take the homeless people away and put them in jail or send them on the bus out of town. But there's this really crazy idea where you can take the homeless people that are bothering folks so much and just put them in homes. And then they have a place to live. And then they're not on the streets doing all the things that all these people are complaining about. Yeah, it's happening all over, Brian, for sure. Which city is here? This is actually a... It's a high-end apartment building in Hangzhou, Zhejiang province, China. It's like a luxury high-end apartment building. This is like when they said 4-star hotels were gulags because they had to quarantine there. Everything's a fucking gulag except the actual prisons in our society. Everything's to these people. Everything is a gulag except our vast, sprawling prison system, which is, by the way, significantly more barbaric and brutal and deadly than the gulag system ever was. Also, should be also worth pointing out. You know, the prison system where you have millions of people who have not been even fucking charged with a crime, dying regularly, being locked up for months or years and dying in this vast, sprawling, privately owned prison system. Everything's a gulag to these people except that, the thing that's in our society that we live with. I'm curious how housing is distributed in these complexes. Well, this one says like it's rented out by many internet e-commerce startups. They purchase or rent apartments there. So it's locally referred to as the Internet Celebrity Building. That's what it's known as. And this is the kind of terrifying possibility of what might come to Toronto. Imagine this terrifying idea. Anyway, I want to look into like this Olivia Chow race and also just look into the way that people are freaking out and, you know, what that says about our political climate here in the West. That someone like Olivia Chow can run for mayor. Olivia Chow, who's not radical, who's not a socialist, who was married to Jack Layton, who is the leader of the NDP for many years, who like was like most famous for almost winning an election with the NDP by like bringing them to the center. Like Jack Layton was a inspiring figure and seemed like a very cool guy, but was not some radical socialist or leftist. Like that was his whole thing with the NDP, was trying to make them kind of like a slightly more socially democratic or socially conscious version of the Liberal Party. And just the idea that someone that's even has like remotely left-wing values in any way is so now because of this like Red Scare that we're living in. And there's a couple of factors working with Olivia Chow. There's the Red Scare and there's the whole like anti-China yellow peril thing, which is like mixed with the Red Scare in our climate right now. So there's really people that think that not only is Olivia Chow like a radical socialist who's going to enact some kind of like fucking land reform or whatever in Toronto, which by the way I would support. If all the horror stories about Olivia Chow were true, I would think that it was cool and good. I'm not even saying that those would be bad things to do. But so not only is she not like politically nowhere near that kind of like radical figure that she's being painted as, but also because she's Chinese and has contacted Chinese groups that have dared to maybe ask a few basic questions about some of the accusations that we love to hurl at China, and haven't bowed down in shame and renounced their homeland and have refused to kind of like go along with this narrative. That's not even Olivia Chow, because she's met with a certain groups of Chinese diasporic residents in Toronto. That's enough to suggest that she's actually being some kind of like President Xi controlled Manchurian candidate. Which is how totally deranged the political climate is in this country right now. And this is something that I want to talk about a little bit next week. So I don't want to get into like everything about this today, but next week I'm going to be having back on the show Amanda Yee, aka Radio Free Amanda, aka Cat Content Only, as well as Jorge Roca, aka Line Goes Down on Twitter. They're going to both be joining the program. We're going to talk about this kind of new Red Scare. We're going to talk about Jorge's like candidacy to join the, I believe it's the NPC of the Democratic Socialists of America. His work on the International Committee. Amanda does work with PSL. So we're able to talk about all this stuff. And I definitely want to talk to both of them about this situation that's developed, this climate that's developing in Canada here, where people like Olivia Chow, or really like anyone in the Chinese diaspora, is like being accused of having this kind of like dual loyalty, just for not contributing to this like China bad panic. Dave, thank you so much. Dave Legend, thank you so much for making this. Look at this logo, folks. Give it up for Dave Legend. Made this really cool spinny logo. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. It's really cool stuff. And the chat likes it as well. That's hilarious because those same diaspora they would point to and say, listen to their stories as a way to shit on socialism. But the second vaguely leftist figure talks to them, now they're spies. Well, this is the thing. It's like we want to listen to these diaspora communities when they have certain specific things to say about socialism, about China, or wherever they come from, Ukraine, Venezuela, Cuba. We really want to listen to them and listen to their stories when they have a specific viewpoint. But if any of these folks have a different viewpoint, like if you're talking about the Chinese diaspora, and any people that are part of this community say like, no, actually, like China, I think it's amazing the transformation that they've undergone over the last couple of decades. I think that's something that's remarkable that we should be proud of and we should, learn from. And no, actually, I don't agree with some of these accusations about how terrible it is when all these accusations are coming from NGOs and think tanks sponsored by the government and these weapons manufacturers, who, by the way, do not sponsor this program. And then when they say that, we say, like, who's paying you? Who's paying you to say this? That's, I think, the really scary thing about this moment, Because even Olivia Chow, we've talked about, Olivia Chow shows up every year to, like, the Tiananmen Remembrance events and things like that. And it's, like, it's really important the way we, like, really unpack the way people that are part of this diaspora community are really pressured to co-sign this narrative about China or wherever they come from, wherever they come from. They're really pressured to like conform to this idea and to promote this narrative. And the moment they do decide to push back against these things or show some kind of pride in their homeland or show some kind of like willingness to push back on these kinds of narratives, they get accused of being spies. They get accused of who's paying you to think this? There's no way. This is the way that our discourse is shaped up. There's just no way that people in these diaspora communities can have genuinely held opinions when it comes to China being something that's like not this terrible techno dystopian human rights abusing dictatorship. There's no, if they don't believe that, there's no way that their views can be like genuinely held. It must be because they're part of some operation, some op, or they're being paid or whatever. Like people will show up to protests, like if Chinese people protest and like against this narrative or promote things that China's doing, they'll be accused of being like paid to be there. Like it's really I think a fucked up climate. I'm just like I'm a random white person. I have no cultural or familial connections to China whatsoever. I just think it's a fascinating place. And I think the development over the last 20, 30 years, or even going back to the post-war period where China was from the post-war period to right now, I think you look at that, I think it's absolutely incredible. I think it's absolutely remarkable and something that should be celebrated. You know, I think we should have like stronger diplomatic and cultural ties with this burgeoning economic and cultural superpower, and not constantly antagonizing them. You know, I don't have any connection to it. This is how I view this thing. But if you're a Chinese person in Canada or the US and you say what I just said, it's like, who's paying you? Who's paying you to say that? Who brainwashed you? You know? It's really fucking disturbing, I think, the way that this has been going on.
You simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Been leaving work early. Skate park show sat. Miss Rob. More Rob for me.
Thank you, Brian, for the 200 friend coin. Happy to have you. I think literacy programs in Cuba were beneficial. What? Bah! What? You know, it's like, it's really amazing. They don't want that, because then that gives rise to the possibility of growing class antagonism from the plebs upwards. Absolutely, yeah, for sure. Why can't we do that? Lots of trains, end poverty, fantastic space program, executing billionaires. What's not to like? You know, that all sounds pretty good. This is what I don't get from regular people. Shouldn't we want cooperation? We pride ourselves on being hokey-ass, friendly Canadians. This country is just such an utter embarrassment. Well, then you see how people take their cues from the media. And people are told that China is the one that's being aggressive. They're the one that's being hostile. They're the secretive authoritarian dictatorship that are committing genocide and ethnic cleansing and all this stuff. And so people believe that. People are like, of course we want cooperation, but the Chinese are they're engaged in this process of antagonizing us and interfering in our political process and buying off random liberal backbenchers and stuff. So people have convinced themselves of this idea, and you see it's just directly coming from the trough of mainstream media swill, being directly informed by CSIS and our intelligence agencies, you know? They put their country right next to our military bases. It's very provocative. It's very provocative. You know, so I think that's something that's really disturbing about this current moment. The way that these diasporic communities are pressured to fall in line on this stuff, and we're gonna look at the freak out over just Olivia Chow, who says all the things that they want to hear about China being bad and about Tiananmen or Tibet or whatever it is. She says all the things and gives all the lip service to these things, and still gets accused of being this like CCP spy, basically, or being financed by or being manipulated by the CCP, because she's even willing to talk to certain members of the Chinese community in Toronto that have not towed the line quite to the same extent. That's how rigid we demand that people in the diasporic communities, whether it's China or whoever else, conform to this narrative. If you step even one toe out of line, even after spending your whole career telling these people what they want to hear, you step one toe out of line and you get all the accusations about having dual loyalties and being brainwashed or doing the bidding of dictators or authoritarians or being genocide deniers or whatever. All of that comes back, no matter how you've tried to do or say the right thing. It's definitely different, but as a Russian who grew up in America, I'm familiar with that expectation.
We simply
Too bad
use
I'm
the
communist
computer to mark
down
up
to the bone.
the
Hell
size
yeah.
of the account.
Same.
Wait, you mean to tell me that Western culture has a tendency, some might even say a supremacy, where they see other ethnicities as brainwashed, while they themselves are immune? Thinking face interesting.
That is very interesting. The thing is, though, unlike those Asian communities, people like us, Dimitri, we're immune to propaganda. We're immune to it. Not only do we not have propaganda in our wonderful free market system, where the state doesn't control the media, but in case we were ever exposed to propaganda, we would simply say, "No, thank you. No, thank you, sir. No propaganda for me, thank you. We're immune, that's right. Exactly.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
1 month away, TRRS Friendship Triangle.
I wonder who that's about. Thank you very much, Tiniest Boop. Thank you, Tiniest Boop, for the 23 months of Tier 1. Oh my god, it's tantalizingly close, Tiniest Boop. Achingly close. Isn't it CPC? No, it is the CPC, but I think I'm saying CCP is a way to subtly mock the people that are panicking about this. Anyway, it's a golden badge, that's all. Propagandized from birth. Haven't you seen how white my skin is? I think you'll find I'm very white, and thus could never be propagandized to. Of course not. Of course not. So I think the main thing that I want to do here is... I mean, I actually had a tweet about this, about the whole Olivia Chow thing that I was going to do, kind of making fun of this concept, but then I felt like I was like ironically contributing to this like very real kind of xenophobic campaign, so I didn't want to. But I had this post where it's like the polls were close and she was behind, and then a picture of President Xi calling it in, and then being like, Olivia Chow pronounced as mayor, just to kind of mock the whole thing. But I was like, am I like subtly contributing to this phenomenon, like in a veiled in irony? I don't know. So I didn't want to do it because I didn't feel like I thought I was contributing to it. It's straight up racism at the end of the day. I remember talking to some people at work around the 2000s, and they had China characterized and funny hats, poverty, and people working rice paddies. Yeah, and not much has changed. Not much has changed. So I think what I would like to do is take a look at what the real hogs are saying about Olivia Chow. And again, when I talk about Olivia Chow being like not radical or anything like that, it's not to criticize her. You know, I think she was the best mayoral candidate for Toronto available by far. Like I said, she's basically a moderate. She's not radical in any way. And you're going to see, despite her being a moderate, the way she's going to be framed as being some like subversive. And I think we're going to see this kind of xenophobic Red Scare campaign really continue, despite the fact that like nothing she proposes is going to be that crazy or outrageous. Like here, even the Wall Street Journal. Can you imagine the Wall Street Journal not having any understanding of what socialism is? A socialist mayor for Toronto. From the Wall Street Journal. Sorry, I'm not going to subscribe to that. I'm not going to subscribe to the Wall Street Journal. I'm not that much of a sicko. Not the best, but the best with the chance to win. Chloe Brown was better. Yeah, well, I'm sure that there were more progressive candidates running, especially originally. Don't live in Toronto, so I don't have the full scoop. What are the chances her moderately progressive platform does she have a chance of pushing through? Like that's what we're going to see. Like we're going to see whether she's even able to enact any remotely progressive policies. Because Montreal is supposed to have a progressive mayor as well, and on a number of issues like housing and the police, she's been pretty right wing. Despite campaigning like against, the police, and I've been campaigning on like minimizing police funding. Best city in Canada. I have a chance to fly out next month. Can go to Vancouver, Montreal. I'm biased. I talked about it yesterday. Montreal, not only the best city in Canada, one of the absolute best cities in the world, actually. I was going to say North America, but Montreal is a world-class city. Absolutely fantastic. Recommend it to everybody. My sky is covered with your maple smoke. I'm sorry to hear that. It actually cleared up around here. It was very smoky around here over the weekend. It's kind of cleared up. We keep getting like severe thunderstorm warnings, and it just doesn't happen. So I don't know what's going on with that. It's a kind of a beautiful day here in Montreal. It's cloudy, but it's nice. Any chance something genuinely good might happen here in Canada? And I'd say no, actually, to that, unfortunately. I'm going to go ahead and say no. And I take no pleasure in reporting this. So, I mean, that's the main thing. Like, there's a right-wing freakout over Chow winning. I think the main thing that they're focusing on is he's going to raise everyone's taxes. But there's some very unhinged. Like, here's the Toronto Sun. This is so absurd that I don't even know if that it's real. Like, is this can someone that lives in Toronto confirm that this is a real Toronto Sun cover? That is not real? Okay. Sorry, the police are coming to arrest me for saying good things about the CPC. Have you seen the UK Sun articles on Corbyn? Those cover pages are hilarious. I mean, the Sun is one thing. Even the BBC did the crazy anti-Corbyn photoshopping stuff. Remember the thing with like the hat? He was wearing like a kind of socialist-looking hat or whatever, and they kind of like photoshopped it. So he looks like he's overseeing like some kind of work camp or something. Is a Photoshop of one that is real from the McGinty reels. Okay. So I don't want to suggest that this is real, but what is real though is the right-wing freakout over Chow winning. So I'd like to maybe look at some of that. Oh, you know who is mad, though? This fucking guy. Chris Sky. He's already putting out videos saying, like, the election was stolen. This guy Chris Sky, who's just some like isn't he like the son of some like fucking housing magnate or something like that rose to prominence during the pandemic, like complaining about lockdowns and mandates and stuff like that. Yeah, if you get 1% of the vote, you can't claim the stolen election thing. No. If it's close, then maybe you can pull that off. All these blue check supporters. Of course, they're posting the big club and you ain't in it clip. What the fuck kind of siren is that? Sounds like an alien invasion siren. They're posting the big club and you ain't in it. George Carlin pick to fucking Chris Sky of all people. Yeah, I don't know, Chris. Juan Guaido, exactly. Juan Guaido has declared himself has declared himself mayor of Toronto. Anyway, Chow did an interview with CBC this morning. Maybe let's take a look at that. And while we're doing that, I'll try and find some informative and entertaining hog content to look at.
We are looking live at Toronto this morning, the morning after the city picked its new mayor. And the new mayor is Olivia Chow, who won last night's by-election to replace the former mayor, John Tory. And there, as we look at scenes from the headquarters last night, the victory party, the victory speech, and this morning, the work begins. Toronto's Mayor-elect Olivia Chow is with me in studio. Welcome. It's good to see you again in a whole new capacity. Congratulations.
Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. I'm just thinking, we were just talking in the commercial break about the ballot in Toronto. 100
The new sirens are in the
candidates
CCP police we have now. Exactly. They're from their secret police stations. Very scary stuff.
Including you. So you have defeated more than 100 candidates to become the person who holds really one of the most politically important
It's just like
jobs
Saigon
in
in
the
75,
country. How's
exactly.
it feeling this morning?
Excited, very grateful, feeling honored to be given this opportunity, and ready to go.
You'll need the energy. The list
That
of
I have.
you have energy. We know that from the years, but the list of to-dos is long. The challenges are great. The changes in Toronto have not been in the direction many have wanted, and you've acknowledged that over the campaign. I want to jump right in terms of one of the main issues, and that's money. For so many, we're talking today, we just got the inflation numbers out. They're down a little bit, but obviously people know the cost of everything is going up.
Is she
But
born
one
on
of the things
mainland
that
or
you said in
Taiwan?
your
It's a good
victory
question.
speech
She
last
may be
night,
from
you
Hong Kong.
acknowledge how tough it is these days. It's harder to get by. In Toronto, it's going to be tougher if taxes go up, property taxes go up, and people are afraid of that. You've said they'll go up modestly. What is the plan?
Well, we should talk about the plan in March
she's
of
from
next
Hong
year
Kong.
because Mr. Tory, the former mayor, had just given the city, all the homeowners, a 7% tax increase before he left office. And unfortunately, there is a big budget deficit.
Yeah, more than $1 billion.
it's at
I'll be right back. I'm gonna get my
billion,
water,
yeah.
folks.
So what my first priority is to look at all the affordable housing and the other housing that is already ready to go. They are ready in terms of they have the land, they have the building, they have the plans. The building permit just needs to be approved. So they're stuck at City Hall for the last 2 years. So my first priority is to break that apart and say, come on, let's cut some red tapes and get it going.
Get some of those things.
Yeah, so approve
jumping
all
right on
these
the tax
affordable
thing as
housing
well.
and all the developments that are ready to be built because everyone believes that we need to build housing.
So it makes sense to look at the lay of the land before you make any, firm announcements. But, I mean, your opponents in the campaign were talking about, you did acknowledge there would be tax increases. They said, it'll be 20%. It will be 40%. Are they right?
No, it's campaign talk. No, they're
Scare
absolutely
tactics?
wrong. They're wrong. I've said it's a modest tax increase. Can't give a number because Heather, we don't know what is the interest rate, right? And Bank of Canada have been trying to battle the inflation, so they just upped the interest rate to 4.75. It was 4.5. We're talking about 9 months from now. We're talking about March of next year. How do we put a budget together? Look at what we need. TDC needs fixing, right? We need a faster, a more
For a
reliable
national
service.
audience, that's the transit
There's
service
a
in the city.
transit
That's
service.
exactly
That's
right.
So where
Isn't there
does
enough
public transit
unoccupied
building
housing yet? That gets to like a central question, whether the solution to the housing crisis is building more housing. I think building more housing is a good thing, but under what context, Is the housing actually going to be affordable for anyone to live in? I think is an important question. What are we doing with the housing that's there currently that's unoccupied, that's part of some real estate portfolio? What are we doing to bring down costs of current housing to make it more affordable for people to live in? These are the questions, and these are questions that have not really been answered satisfactorily. And when they say affordable, they mean market rent, which is not affordable. That's the whole fucking problem in the first place. Hello, Hodega. What's up?
Dealing with the environment, that's very important, right? So there are a lot of services that needs to be looked at.
They built a house with 640,000 plastic bottles in Nova Scotia. I mean, that sounds like a pretty cool accomplishment, but I don't know if that's the real solution to the housing crisis, you know? Something tells me that it is not. But all the respect to the people that did do that, though.
There's
Before
park
we get
police.
the number.
Absolutely,
But
right?
how are you going to get the rest of council to agree? Megan was reporting earlier. I mean, you've been away from City Hall for
I'm
some
vibing
time.
as well.
You know there are some really strong fiscal conservatives on City Council, and we don't even have a number with which to work with. How are you going to get the rest of council to agree to these kind of big expenses, to tax increases, which have not been the way in Toronto for the past 14 years now?
Right. As you know, I had 14 years of city government experience.
What stops the new housing from being bought by a property management company or getting turned into another Airbnb? These are the questions, right? And to really have satisfactory answers to these questions, you need someone that's going to have a firm hand with these things and really engage in some radical ideas, some outside the box ideas. Is Olivia, and again, I have respect for Olivia Chow. I don't want to criticize her. Is she the person that's going to lay down the law here? I know she's being framed that way by right-wing media, but something tells me that's not what's going to happen.
And years in the budget committee, and I've also been a member of parliament for 8 years. So I have a lot of experience in public office, and I do know how to work together with other folks, whether it's Mr. Harper's conservative or at City Hall. It's always about working together across the aisle, find the common ground, and then look at how we could get there.
That always works.
And
You just find
sometimes
the
it's a
common ground
bit
with
of
everyone, and
give
then
take.
you have a...
Because if you think about it,
Yeah,
all
but
the
you can
city
work towards a
councillors,
solution, no
people,
problem.
Whether they voted for me or not vote for me, they love this city. Toronto is the financial center of Canada. And in order to build a strong Canada, you need a livable and affordable and healthy Toronto. And right now, Toronto has some problems, and we are calling on other people from other cities to help us out, because our homelessness, the lack of affordable housing, is severe, and that's happening to all the cities across Canada.
When you talk about partnerships and working and building consensus, obviously council is key in that, but so is the premier. And Doug Ford, as you well know, again, maybe you'll point it down to campaign talk, but he was not complimentary during the campaign and said you'd be an unmitigated disaster for Toronto if you were elected.
I $4.10. I genuinely don't know how anyone affords to live there. I genuinely don't know. Like where I live here in Montreal, in Toronto would probably be in like a comparable neighborhood, would probably be 3 times as much as it is here. I genuinely don't know how you would afford that, or how anyone would. This is exactly why I like to visit Toronto, but everyone's got this like fucking hollowed out look. They give you that Toronto stare because they're so used to fucking being in this non-stop rat race, hamster wheel, whatever analogy you want to do, to try and like afford to be able to continue living there. I'm running a 10-plus-year-old rent-controlled apartment into the ground. That's the only way. I can't afford to move. Yeah. And if you were ever like reno-evicted or God forbid something happened like that, right? Carrier wave, it's like you would just be fucked. Like it's like, oh, you just find another place to live. Like there's literally not another place. Well, that's what I mean. And this is the whole thing, Tarticlet. Like Olivia Chow gets framed as this like radical socialist who loves China and Mao, but if she actually was one of those people and actually did want to reach to those kinds of solutions to deal with this very real crisis, you know, that would be really great, I think. But she's not, though. I live in a 2-bedroom in the Plateau across the street from a large park. It's still affordable. In Toronto, it'd be like $4,200. Yeah. I don't even want to imagine what the place that I live in would cost in Toronto. I have no fucking clue. I could afford to live in like a closet in Toronto. By the way, this interviewer just can't stop repeating smear lines from Chow's opponents. That's the classic, like, centrist liberal thing, you know, liberal, non-biased media. When you just repeat all the accusations from her opponents, and then you have her, spend the entire time debunking all that stuff. And call it a day.
Statement that we've had from the Premier last night was more tempered, let's say. While we're not always going to agree on everything, he wrote, what we can agree on is our shared commitment to making Toronto a place where business, families and workers can thrive. So, as you say, a shared love of Toronto, a recognition that there are problems and there need to be solutions. But you are so different from Premier Ford in your approaches and your philosophies. How are you ever going to work with him?
We have to hear the other side, lest we be intolerant like the right wackadoos. Anyway, here's what they said verbatim and unchallenged. Yeah. Hello, Marty.
Heather, let's start with the goal. Mm-hmm. The goal is still the same. And he called me last night, and we talked about common ground. He and I was in the same campaign together for...
It's wild that people think CBC is some left-wing propaganda mill. I mean, that's how totally fucking... toxic and backwards our political climate is. Like, it's not just CBC, but like these are like left-wing Marxist institutions, according to like the people on the right now. The CBC, other big like media like CNN, of course, big left-wing media operation. Budweiser, the Budweiser company, you know, Disney. All these things. These are like radical Marxist organizations, according to people on the right.
8 months.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
I voted for Olivia Chow 17 times on Monday, and I am not even from Toronto.
Thank you, Netlocked. Thank you for that. You did your duty. We all got our marching orders from President Xi to vote as many times as possible for Olivia Chow, and we were able to deliver the result. That's a team effort.
Quite well.
It's true, back in 2014.
Absolutely.
Well, National Post is taxpayer-funded National Post, too, because they can't stop going bankrupt and getting bailed out. Of course, and that's our system, right? That's our socialist system where it's publicly financed and privately profitable. Publicly subsidized, privately profitable. Literally the opposite of how we're supposed to be doing things.
And when you go on campaigns, there were so many debates. Almost every second night there was another debate. So we got to know each other. And yes, we do love the city.
There is common ground?
Absolutely.
What did you discuss last night that you think
Well, we
is the
didn't go
starting
into
point?
all details, but for number one, we both agree that we need to build housing, right? And that's a priority because Toronto is growing. As you look at all the immigrants coming into Canada, they are picking major cities, Toronto being one of the key ones. So we need to build housing to accommodate all the newcomers coming into our city. That's a priority, no matter what your political stripe. If that is the goal, how do we get there? How do we share that kind of, the processes might be different, but I'm sure we can find some common ground. Really,
no, it's what we're saying. Like the building housing is not, it's meaningless.
How do we do it together?
If the same system is kept in place.
Speak up, and the people are speaking up, saying, look,
as long as housing is commodified, then we can build all the housing we want. It's still not going to have the same result that we need.
Make life more affordable. Make City Hall care about us a bit more, and let's create
more
a better
affordable,
city.
caring, and safer, the vision that you have put forward.
Exactly.
You'll need Doug Ford as a partner, as you say, in terms
Absolutely.
of giving you some of the financial levers potentially to do the things that you're doing, given
Yes.
the budget shortfall that you're facing. We'll have to carry on the conversation, I hope, in weeks to come once you take over on July the 12th. But I do want to ask you one thing. You've been away from for a number of years now, and one of the things that I think has changed in the past year since you left the political scene has been the level and the volume and the nature of political discourse. And I think
budget
you just need
shortfall,
to
yeah.
look at your
You know, if this was a family budget, it would just be way out of control. We got to sit down and really take a look at everything line by line and go over it. There's no way we can afford to do any of this stuff that you want to do.
Campaign Twitter feed this morning to see the kinds of reactions, some very favorable to your being elected, but some very angry, very ugly. And from talking to politicians, and notably female politicians, it's a very unpleasant part of the business now. How are you going to deal with that?
It's okay. It's all right, because there are more that we share with each other than what divide us. Let's not stand for hate. But I am a firm believer, if we care for each other better, then you create social conditions where people are less likely to feel alienated, less likely to feel excluded. If you open...
It's the same thing I keep telling people in Vermont. We have to take housing development away from the private sector, not give state money to bribe private companies to build not actually affordable housing. It's just everywhere. It's the same solution everywhere. Lo and behold, it's not having any fucking impact on the cost of housing or our rapidly expanding unhoused population. You think eventually we need to acknowledge that this basic strategy, which is being employed everywhere, is not having the effect that it's supposed to. In fact, quite the opposite. You know, and someone's going to have the courage to point that out and actually propose radical solutions to confront that and accept all the, like, look at the way that what people are saying about Olivia Chow, despite the fact that she's not doing that. People are going to have to accept that all the mudslinging and all the insults and all the claims that are going to be made when you start saying that kind of stuff, but you got to do it anyway, because that's the actually solution to these big crises. What if we just gave them unlimited tax cuts and asked them real nicely? Oh, we've been doing that for decades with no result. Huh. Yeah. Yeah, and public housing was simply introducing a little of that competition into the housing market, which they claim to love so much.
Open City Hall up to say you too can have a
Marty,
voice.
what do you think about the spinny
no matter
globe?
what your voice might be. It might be disagreement, but let's hear each other. And I believe we can create a structure, a political structure that allow these voices, not the hateful one, but the ones that are different, to connect with each other and
right?
share the experience and share their love of Toronto with each other, for each other.
It's so good. I thought it was part of the
spoken about,
broadcast we were watching. It really does add to the whole like professionalism of the whole endeavor, doesn't it?
Your second chance.
Yes.
You shared your very compelling personal story.
And I'm sorry again. I don't want to be too critical of Olivia Chow here, but this is very like Obama style. Let's all just get together and we all care about Toronto and we're all going to work together kind of rhetoric. That's not what's going to actually create any change that's going to be good for anybody. You know, it's a nice idea. I love the idea. I would love to live in a world where that was the kind of thing that brought about serious political change in Toronto or elsewhere. Unfortunately, it's not, though. Unfortunately, it's not. Everyone's coming over for a big party. That's right. And remember, this is what our spy agency was saying about Olivia Chow just a few weeks ago.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
My God, no way. Has it truly been a whole year? Where does the time go? I can't wait to restart this whole journey with my personal account and not my stream account. Stay slubversive rib and chat. You are a valued community.
Johnny, thank you. Thank you for well, it's actually 15 months. It's more than a year, but the 12-month streak. So thank you, Johnny, for the 15 months of Tier 1 and all the support. Appreciate it a lot. Thank you. I think she needs immediate criticism. Her deceased husband doomed the NDP to fecklessness with the same strategy. Well, this is what I mean. It's like I talked about Jack Layton, who was not a radical figure at all. Who was like a centrist. He was someone that I liked and respected a lot, but someone whose whole political project was about making the NDP less of a social democratic party and more of like a mainstream centrist neoliberal party. Like that was his whole agenda, you know? And that kind of a approach to politics anywhere, we've seen the result over and over and over again, and it's going to be the same thing in Toronto. Let's hear what Doug said about her. This is just from a few days ago.
My biggest fear is the gravy train 2.0 coming down the tracks. I've seen it. I've lived it. Colin, you were down there. And I just want what's best for the people of Toronto. I want the best mayor. I don't want someone going in there raising taxes in an unprecedented hike.
I mean, this whole bullshit about the gravy train that Rob Ford is talking about and Doug Ford's talking about, the fucking gravy train, like all his real estate developer buddies that he's like handing over contracts to develop this like green belt in Ontario. This whole nonsense with the fucking gravy train and the budget and tax increases and all this shit. This absolutely corrupt motherfucker, whose brother was so much at least entertaining, and this guy is just nothing. This charisma-less fucking loser. Giving huge tracts of land to his members of his wedding party, and he's going to lecture everyone about the gravy train. His brother ate the gravy train, that's right, until he passed away.
And create economic development, create housing. And unfortunately, it'd be an unmitigated disaster if Olivia Chow got in. Her policies don't work. Matter of fact, Colin, what is her policies? I've heard one policy: I'm raising taxes. If you don't think that puts a chill through people, it really does. And it puts a chill through businesses. I can assure you that.
Loser. Okay, here's a piece from the Toronto Sun 5 days ago. We'll see. I'm really interested to see what the right is saying. I think that's the main thing I wanted to emphasize here. How much of like a moderate political presence Olivia Chow is. Like I said, probably the best possible candidate that had a chance to win in this election, but not someone who's radical or really even meaningfully left wing in any way. And I think it's really interesting to contrast that with what the right is saying about her, and what that means for the future of actual left-wing politics in Toronto or Ontario or Canada or wherever. The silver lining here is that's not Rob, though. It's Doug. That's Doug Ford. Rob is the deceased brother. Silver lining here is that Doug and people like him are big mad about Chow getting elected. Yeah, I mean, that's a good sign. But we're going to see if, the people that are mad about Chow actually have any real consequences from her being elected. I think it's doubtful that they will. So here's this piece from Toronto Sun 5 days ago. They're really focusing on the taxes. It's just taxes.
Your wallets. If Olivia Chow becomes the next mayor of Toronto, it's going to cost you. Hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Brian Lilly and Fraser McDonald. Fraser, I think that I'm not exaggerating when I say hang on to your wallets. We have such massive affordability issues already in Toronto. Olivia Chow has hidden tax increases that she's not telling the voter about. What say you?
Well,
how do you know?
Run a classic front-runner bubble campaign where she's not saying much about anything, and so we know.
Fraser McDonald, who is this? Vice President at Strategy Corp. What the fuck is Strategy Corp? Let's look into this Fraser McDonald character.
But anything, and so we know the few things she's promised. We have no idea how she's going to pay for it, but we can surely bet that you and I are going to be contributing more than we are today. And that's something we'd love to hear more details about before Election Day.
Brian, there have been a number of candidates' debates, and the one that happened most recently was probably the first and real opportunity that any of the other candidates really tried to get a number out of Olivia Chow, but she's refused. She pivots and talks about renters, and then pivots and talks about happy stories. But what seems to be challenging her is not only is she not giving us just how high her property tax increase will be, she seems to forget that renters also pay the property tax.
Well, she doesn't forget it, but she's hoping the renters do. And one of the things
I'm
in
interested to
Ontario
know
law-
whether this Sun story is going to get into these accusations from CSIS about Chow and meeting with these Chinese diasporic groups. I think that's the really interesting thing for me. This dude's bio on his website. His legal career saw him specialize. My music has not been playing this whole time, has it? Okay, no, it hasn't. His legal career saw him specialize in banking and finance at several large international law firms in Toronto, Australia, and London, UK. In these roles, he represented some of the largest financial institutions, private equity firms, and other lenders in Canada and around the world on complex financial transactions. Really just looking out for the little guy, though. Really just looking out for the little guy. You know? That's the person you kind of want to trust in these situations about whose taxes are getting raised. This Brian Lilly guy is dating Doug Ford's daughter. That's kind of disturbing because he looks to be about Doug Ford's age, so kind of fucked up. A collapse in the housing market followed by imploding investment funds and banks is the best version of economic justice we can ask for in the short term. I mean, it certainly seems like there's no one that's around that's going to like deliver those kinds of things intentionally, so you're probably right. But like we saw with Obama as well, it's like it's not even just about the market collapsing. Like the market collapsing opens the doors for serious changes and reforms, but if someone like Obama comes along, they can throw a Band-Aid over that system and make everyone whole again and keep the whole machine running. You know, you need someone in place to pick up the pieces in that moment, you know, and we don't really have anyone like that.
It's long been established, even with rent control. If you're a landlord and you get hit with a big property tax increase, guess what? You can pass that on to your tenants. So
well, someone think about the landlords.
Landlords are going to turn around.
Won't someone think of the landlords? Right. You're going to pass that on to your tenants. Why about instead of doing that? This is my advice for the landlords that are going to be affected by that. Maybe instead of passing on those increased taxes to your tenants, why don't you get a real job? How about that? Why don't you do something productive for society rather than just sitting around? You don't have a real job. Maybe you should just go out and fucking become a bus driver or a garbage man or you work in like a coffee shop or a grocery store or a library, you know, whatever it is. Get a real job. Then you won't have to worry about this. What if we just take away all their land and all their properties and then they won't have to worry about these tax increases anymore? How about that? We'll just expropriate all that, nationalize all that, and decommodify the housing market. Then you won't be a landlord anymore, and you won't have to have these terrible property taxes. How about that? That's my counteroffer.
Right away, it is going to be a disaster for them. And it's the type of thing that if you're a renter, you should know and not just ignore. But she's
it must be so hard for a tenant to pay your mortgage. I know. Yeah.
Just like she's hoping and praying that most people don't look at her platform, which is pretty thin. I mean, really, is she at 33% or whatever it is in the polls because she says she'll open libraries on Sundays? I love libraries. Used to take my kid when my kids were young, took them all the time. But that's not something that rallies people to go vote for Olivia Chow. She's got a very thin platform, but she has said she'll raise taxes in some specific ways. And then in other areas, she's just not saying. And when pressed, she's like, well, we'll figure out what people need first, and then we'll figure out how to spend it.
Someone always likes to say to me, Fraser, show me your budget and I'll show you your priorities. Well, what could we say about the current city council budget? It's got a $1.5 billion hole that if Chow becomes mayor, it's going to be filled with what we think is going to be a eye-watering double-digit tax increase.
Let's look at what we think is. So you have no actual proof of that, first of all. This is you're just entirely making this up, number one. Number two, what's the old police budget in Toronto? It's not small, I'll tell you that much. 1.16 billion. That was the 2023 municipal budget Wednesday night, which included a $48.3 million increase to the Toronto Police Services funding. I think I found some extra money lying around. Look at that. We don't even have to raise taxes. we don't even have to raise taxes. Just even just take away the $48.3 million increase. There's a bunch of money right there. I think I found the problem here. I think I found the issue. People should hire me to consult on this kind of stuff. And both the OPP and RCMP operate in the city as too. But the thing is, they're really like preventing a lot of crime. That's the main thing. They're preventing a lot of crime, so that's why you got to do it. Well, sorry, I'm getting word from my producer that they are actually not doing anything to prevent crime in any way. And when someone is the victim of a crime, they call the police and they wait a few hours for them to show up, and then they just kind of stand around and twiddle their thumbs and don't fucking do anything. The OPP is the provincial police, the Ontario Provincial Police. It's easy to prevent crime when you're doing the crime. That's right.
Potentially 40%. But again, Ms. Chow is not telling us. So we only have to suppose then she's looking at other taxing revenues. For example, a municipal sales tax, bringing back the car registration tax, which
she's just making shit up. She doesn't know
things out there. We know she's not going to look at outsourcing.
Toronto police mostly just supervise condo construction sites for overtime pay. Yeah, maybe it's like not a good idea to have this, to spend $1.16 billion annually subsidizing this like fucking organized crime, violent maniacs. How about that? How's that for a radical solution?
We know she's not going to look for efficiencies. We know she's not going to tie any funding to outcomes. This is going to spell out a massive financial nightmare for Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we have to consider here is that we're in the midst of an affordability crisis before whatever taxes we get hit with next. And and to think about a 25 to 40% increase just on the property tax side, I mean, that's not how you solve an affordability crisis. We do have a big fiscal gap at the city, and someone's got to tackle that head on. But I would suggest that the way to do that is a balanced approach and not just going after.
Absolutely, check this man's hard drives.
Politically, Brian, I know that almost all of the major candidates, including Ms. Chow, have said that the city needs a better deal from the province, and plus they need the federal
looks like one of those great arrested templates, unchanged.
Those shelter spaces are being used right now by refugees. So that's fine, but doesn't it politically work out well for Olivia Chow to?
No, you solve an affordability crisis by giving even more money to the developers. That's right.
Say, look, Doug Ford's not coming to the table. Looks good for her if she wants to run again in 2026 if she's successful and becomes the mayor. Doesn't that sort of make the clear divide of NDP versus conservative all over again? So doesn't that bode well for her politically, but not well for the city of Toronto?
Well, one of the things the other candidates have been saying in the last few days, and Anna Baila was saying this on Wednesday morning, is Olivia Chow is an opposition MP. She doesn't know how to lead. She was standing in front of Queen's Park, Anna Baila was, and she's saying she won't be able to work with Doug Ford at Queen's Park. She'll just fight him, and that's not good. And there's truth in that. Look, can Olivia Chow and Doug Ford work together? I think Doug Ford can work with anyone. A lot of it will come down to Olivia Chow.
Would you talk to him at the next family barbecue,
as much
Brian?
as I disagree with her policies, she can be pragmatic, but I'm not sure about many of the people around her who seem much more strident. And so,
sorry for the lack of trigger warning over Brian Lilly. I apologize.
This works in our favor. Let's keep fighting with the province. Let's keep fighting with the federal government. Let's pick fights with everyone. If that's the case, then Toronto just suffers. And that $1.4 billion hole in the city budget, staff have already come forward and said, if you want to fill that just with property taxes and not look for efficiencies, not look for trade-offs, that's a 39% property tax hike, plus vehicle registration, plus, as you say, a sales tax, plus all these other things, these other revenue tools. Revenue tools means they're going to stick their hand in your pocket and take out more money. Be afraid. Be very, very afraid.
What
Ooh,
astonishes me about
taxes.
her she's been very blunt about it. I'm just going to increase taxes. Okay, so I think that it's going to be a low voter turnout, Fraser. So it's not going to be endorsed by a majority of Torontonians. But that said, she's been forthcoming about that. But it's just the other aspects of it are beyond her fiscal policy. We have massive social issues facing the city. We have a homeless crisis. We have a mental health crisis. We have not come out of the pandemic as robustly as perhaps some other jurisdictions have. And on top of that, we're dealing
What
with
does
all
this
this
lady
while we
propose
sit
we
in
do about the
gridlock
mental health
traffic,
pandemic, or
unmovable
epidemic?
traffic.
I wonder.
City council just voted to have 9 more kilometers of bike lanes around the city. So we'll have a unsafe city, a dirty city, an unmovable city, and an expensive one under Olivia Chow's mayor.
Taxes, like they're just freaking out over taxes and bike lanes. Oh no, heaven forbid we try to do a little bit to get people out of cars and create a small amount of infrastructure for cyclists. That's going to just jam up the whole city with traffic, which famously wasn't already happening. Maybe you just need to put a few more lanes on the highway or the Gardner Expressway or whatever. It's going to instantly solve the traffic problem. Just another lane is going to do it. Every bike lane is another lane that we could have had automobiles on, which would alleviate the traffic. Surely this has worked wherever it's been tried. Reduce urban sprawl, better people city sounds awesome to me. I mean, yeah, it sounds like steps in the right direction. That's the whole thing. It's nowhere near far enough for Toronto or anywhere else. And look how unacceptable that is to like these reactionaries.
The direction's pretty clear. The details are not. And again, there's not a lot of meat on the bones on the platform here. So this is a popularity contest. It's an unusual election. It's not the sort of long drawn out mayoral plus council race that we often have with lots of media coverage.
Very little sauce to this. If I'm looking for apocalyptic fear mongering, I'm unimpressed. Seriously, I would like to see a little bit more apocalyptic fear mongering.
And just sort of indicated directions on a whole bunch of these files. But on every one of these directions, it's the ones that were.
An election is a popularity contest. That's right. Yeah.
Brian, last word. Is there anything that we could look at in terms of a Chow mayoralty that we could look forward to? I know I'm being very negative, and I'm just looking at all the negative.
This is called being centrist.
Her leading the city. It's just very hard to find anything positive.
Library is open on Sundays,
which is lovely.
That's a winner.
How are libraries funded again, Brian?
Unfortunately,
remind me.
For me, public safety has been a big issue during this election. The safety on the TTC. Her biggest platform promise on public safety is fixing 911, which I think all the candidates agree on, because 911 isn't working properly. It's got to be fixed somehow. It's, as Fraser was just saying, not a lot of meat on the bone there. So how can you raise her up and applaud her when she hasn't put a lot of stuff out there other than, yeah, I'm going to raise your taxes, I'll fix 911, I'll open libraries on Sundays. Okay, how does that win you the mayor's race? I know, people know her name and the dedication and discipline of the NDP in making sure that their candidate goes forward.
Well, as I said, hang on to your wallets, folks. But hey, Toronto, it's time to start paying attention and look at who you're voting for this coming Monday. Log on to Facebook and Twitter. Let us know what you think. Go to theTorontoSun.com and hit that subscribe button. You're going to find coverage on stories like this and others you will not find anywhere else.
Yeah, not quite as apocalyptic as I was looking for. By the way, folks, I'll just take a brief moment to remind you here. While we're here, I'm going on an hour, 40 minutes into the stream. I have a little less than an hour to go. I have a shorter time frame to work with this week. Like I said, my son's in theater camp, and I got to go pick him up at 3 o'clock. So I got a 2:30 cutoff maximum for the next foreseeable future. So if you do enjoy this program, folks, and you enjoy TRRS, you want to support the community, you want to support the work that I do here on Twitch, you appreciate the analysis and the insight and the conversation and the entertainment and all the fun times we have on here day after day, the only way that I'm able to host this program each and every day here on twitch.tv/Rob Rousseau is through the extremely generous support of the wonderful TRRS community. So please, if you can, subscribe to TRRS. It costs $5 per month. It's completely free of charge with an Amazon Prime account, which you can then convert to a Twitch Prime sub. You can gift subs as well. Any sub gift above 5 will rocket you right to the very top of the friendship triangle system. That's Twitch's only two-dimensional triangle-shaped friendship access and trickle-down clout tiered reward system, folks. It's the only such system that exists on this entire platform. And I know from the outside looking in, you might think to yourself, I could never be a elite member of the friendship triangle system. That's probably a huge time commitment. It's probably a huge commitment in my time and energy. Nope, not so. Not so. You can be a non-sub member right now. This could be your first time watching this program right now. With a gift of 5 subs or above, you're immediately right in that elite tier. Immediately. It's quite easy. Yeah, it's actually quite easy. Look at the spinny globe thing, exactly. Where else are you going to see this kind of professionalism? So if you can, folks, please subscribe to TRRS. Please help me make my tiny little number go up at the bottom of the screen. And in return, you get not only do you support the content that I create, not only do you join this wonderful community, but you also get access to some of the very best tiny little images. That's right, folks. Some of the very best tiny little images that you can get on this entire platform for the low price of $5 per month. Really? It's only that? I know. It's only that. It's only $5 per month. And thank you also to Barrier Trio Bean for continuing the gift sub you got from Ben in PS. I don't know why those don't contribute to the sub goal, but there we go. Increasing that there manually. Thank you to Barrier Trio Bean. One day you can have a tiny piss badge image. And again, the piss badge is not a real thing. It is golden and exclusive, and it doesn't look like pee, but anyway, my wife used to think I was a beta cuck. Since I started subbing to TRRS and using the tiny little images with confidence, she loves me again, and I feel like the Chad that only the triangular trickle-down clout reward system can give. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you for that. Thank you for that very true and real testimonial. Very much appreciated. So, folks, do I have any takers here? Have any takers before we move on here? I subbed to Rob, and now my wife's boyfriend respects me. Exactly. He brings her home from karate practice early, even some nights. So do we have any other takers, folks? Does anyone want to get me out of this segment with a little dignity? A little bit of dignity. You know, I never know who's listening to these things. Someone could be watching this right now. They're trying to see whether I have a control over this community or not.
You can count on me.
I'm humiliated
good old
now.
Rob to
I could get
talk you through all
humiliated.
this.
You never know what kind of weird strangers might be listening right now. Magyar guy, thank you for the gifted sub. Thank you very much, Magyar guy. Very
you can
kind
count
of you
on
for
me.
the gifted
You're gonna
sub.
have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
And thank you, Brian, as well, aka Lennon Smesh, another streamer that people should be following. I appreciate you, Brian. Thank you for that. Just call me Mag. Okay, I can do that. I can do that.
We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Rob Hype.
Hell yeah, Risk Inverse. Thank you very much for the 500 friend coin. Oh boy, friend coin. The 500 friend coin. Thank you very much, Risk Inverse. Very much appreciated. We are close to a hype train now, folks. We are close to a hype train. One more gifted sub could get us on the very exciting hype train. Don't you want that? I know I do. I know I do, folks.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Dummy Dorko, thank you for the gifted sub. Thank you very much, Dummy Dorko. So now we got a hype train, folks. Now we got a hype train going. And, you know, just in case there's any other potential community members out there that are not familiar with TRRS and you don't know what the community is about, I have created this little onboarding orientation video for you. So if we just want to take a few moments now while we got this hype train going, you can watch this little video just to explain what the community is about. And please, I encourage you, if you're a lurker or a non-sub or you enjoy this kind of content, please take a look at the video. And then if you can, support TRRS with a sub or a gift sub or a friend coin or whatever it is. Every little bit helps, and I appreciate it a lot. And most importantly, we become friends. You and me. And that's real. That's not parasocial. It's real. Okay? It's real. Here we go. Here's the TRRS orientation video.
Thank you for expressing interest in the Friendship Triangle community. We would be thrilled to have you on board as a member of our exclusive platform. As you may know, the Friendship Triangle is Twitch's only two-dimensional, triangle-shaped, friendship access and trickle-down clout, tiered reward system. Today you have an amazing opportunity to join the base level of the Friendship Triangle system. Once you are part of the community, you'll have the ability to rise through the ranks and achieve higher levels of access and rewards. One way to do this is by gifting subscriptions to your fellow members or by inviting your friends and family members to join our community. As you ascend the tiers, you will be exposed to a range of new and exciting benefits, such as exclusive content, advanced features, and access to our elite community members. We are confident that you will enjoy all the perks that come with being part of the Friendship Triangle. However,
Thank you,
we also
2023,
want to
more like
remind you that not
1984.
all friends and family members are to be trusted, especially those who may not support your new lifestyle. That's
Very
why we
important.
encourage you to focus on building meaningful
Just gonna
relationships
quickly
within our
rewind that
community,
wire. That's-
where you
this
will
is one of
find
the most important
like-minded
parts.
individuals. However, we also want to remind you that not all friends and family members are to be trusted, especially those who may not support your new lifestyle. That's why we encourage you to focus on building meaningful relationships within our community, where you will find like-minded individuals who share your interests and values. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to our team. We are always here to support our members and ensure that your experience with the Friendship Triangle is enjoyable. We're glad that you are considering joining the Friendship Triangle community. We look forward to seeing you rise through the Chaos Zone and all the way into the Elite tier. It's not a cult.
There we go. Says it right there. Says it right there in the end there. It's not a cult. In case anyone was concerned. It's not a cult. It's not a pyramid scheme. Again, it's triangular. It's two-dimensional. It's not three-dimensional like a pyramid. I'm not sponsored by arms manufacturers, of course, either. It's not a multi-level marketing scheme. It's just a wholesome community where we can hang out and with like-minded individuals. So I don't see what the big fucking problem is. What a fantastic community. Let's have a toast with our Kool-Aid beverages. Listen, Kool-Aid is delicious, all right? It's delicious. So do we have any other takers? Do you have any other takers, folks? I'm at 10 subs. We gotta boost those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers. Does a brave hero want to step to the plate right now? Does a brave hero want to step to the plate and support this community so I can move on from this segment? This video is so informative and well edited, I may even one day buy some subs. So when that day comes, Diego, I would certainly be thankful for that. in no way is it substantially similar to a pyramid in any legal sense in any jurisdiction. That's really important that we emphasize that. That does trip people up sometimes. Folks, look at the spinny globe. Look at that spinny globe. Look at the level of professionalism we're operating from here. The greatly insisting of not being sponsored by arms manufacturers on screen has people asking a lot of questions. Well, so many of these things are sponsored by weapons manufacturers, so I figured it's important to point out that I'm not, you know? Oh, Dave, it's so cool. I love it. But do you have a Putin bad spinny one? We should get that as well. That should be to make, in case people get confused about that. So I'm just looking for more stuff about Olivia Chow here. Putin bad, freedom fighter, Prigozhin good. Exactly. Our liberal Wagner group supporters. And remember, this was just a few months ago. And this is what I was talking about when it aligns with this kind of like xenophobic yellow peril red scare stuff. This is from May, and I remember we covered this at the time. I'm weirdly having there was a ton of mainstream reporting on this, which I'm interestingly having a difficult time finding now. Met with a CCP-aligned group. So yeah, Olivia Chow met with a CCP-aligned group. And remember, that's that's official lingo for any group of like diasporic Chinese Canadian citizens who say anything remotely positive about China, like the place where they're from, right? That means that they're CCP aligned when they make mildly positive comments about China or mildly push back on the nonstop stream of like horror stories or misinformation that we hear about China. So it's all fear-mongering about this group of the CCO, the Council of Newcomer Organizations, who, have taken a few political stances that don't toe the line of our rhetoric about China that comes down from the U.S. State Department. When it comes to Hong Kong, any group of Chinese diasporic citizens that promote the viewpoint of the actual Chinese mainland and most of the people that live there who approve of what the CPC does. When it comes to Hong Kong, when it comes to Xinjiang, and Chow just met with them and was the source of all kinds of accusations. Here's the National Post story about it that we looked at a few months ago. You know, all sourced again from CSIS and from the Macdonald-Laurier Institute, China experts. Completely deranged. Again, Olivia Chow, who like has towed the line on China, who has like promoted all these viewpoints, who attends the Tiananmen Square remembrance ceremonies. But the fact that she met with this group that maybe doesn't toe the line suggests that she's somehow, you know, has some kind of dual loyalty. They'll never say this about the Hindutva groups in Canada or Israel. Israel groups as well, like pro-Israel groups, of course. You know, they met with this pro-Israel group that's like promoting building these illegal settlements in the West Bank. Not only do they not reporting on that, but when you don't meet with those groups, you get accused of like being anti-Semitic. A Chow supporter says such meetings are a necessary evil. Like even the Chow supporters have to like suggest that it's like wrong somehow to talk to Chinese people that don't hate China. And it says right off in the first sentence, she's generally not been a close friend of the Chinese Communist Party. But they then write this entire article suggesting that she is because she met with this one group. Yeah, she's from Hong Kong. I think there's a significant part of like our Chinese diaspora are from Hong Kong who left like when Hong Kong was transitioning from a British colony to going under the control of mainland China. So have a very specific viewpoint about Hong Kong and China. And that's exactly why these groups have been kind of like encouraged to immigrate here. The COO. I'm going to look for a little bit more apocalyptic, insane stuff to look at. I think that's really where I would like to focus on the absolute crazies. Don't mind me, folks. I'm just queuing up the next little batch of content here. Oh, this looks good. Okay, here. Okay, sorry for the delay. I was just queuing up the next little bit of weird shit that I wanted to look at, and I found something very weird that is, I think, exactly what I was looking for here. And I think the image that you're looking at right now speaks for itself. This video here from Ben Bankus, stand-up comedian and podcaster from Toronto.
Hello, my name is Olivia Chow, and I am your new mayor of Toronto. Thank you to all the communists who
Okay, so this is like,
voted for me.
so this is like racist. This is not like, this is not just like Red Scare stuff. This is really like leaning hard into the openly racist stuff, huh?
I appreciate you. Anybody with money, you need to leave the city or give me all your money. We're going to be using that money to build fentanyl clinics for the homeless people.
I think this is the kind of what I was talking about, though, with how much of a moderate person Olivia Chow is versus how people on the right are reacting. So honestly, it was pretty more subdued than I was expecting from the Sun, just focusing on taxes and that bullshit. But I think when you get into that like right-wing online conspiracy world, that's where you find the real rich veins of complete insanity.
We're also going to be sending all the cisgendered people back to Italy when homophobia is legal. Thank you for voting for me, Olivia Chow. I am excited to make this city into communist dictatorship.
Oh, people are really laughing. I haven't laughed this hard in a long time, says Christopher Snarby. You got a lot of the sideways laughing faces, a lot of those. This is the really insane stuff that we wanted to uncover here. Yeah, and it is like Steven Crowder level stuff as well, where they simultaneously include their transphobia in there while also finding an excuse to dress up as a woman and like touch yourself sexually at the same time. That was really something else. Let's see if we can find some more wacky stuff. That was something else. Oh, good. This guy's mocking disabled people as well. He's mocking disabled people as well. Says Olivia Chow posters everywhere. Who the fuck is this guy? This man should be arrested. How do you look at this guy and be like, sure, we should have free speech is great, actually. I love it. I believe this man. I'm coming out and saying this right now, unironically. I, Rob Rousseau, am saying this man, Ben Bankus, should not have free speech. I think he should be arrested for his speech. I don't think he should have free speech or the right to free expression. That's my official stance. That's my official stance on this program. Here's what Pierre Polyev is saying.
Thinks of we've heard from Doug Ford what he thinks of Olivia Chow as mayor of Toronto. I have to ask you, how does this strike you, Pierre Polyev? Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow.
It's bonkers. We've seen what happens when you put Liberal NDP mayors in charge of cities. Look at what happened to Vancouver under their NDP mayor. Downtown East Side turned into a living hell with tent cities.
It's almost as if these folks are actually not left wing in any way.
The third most expensive in the entire world because the council wouldn't let any new building go ahead. Taxes gone through the roof. That's what happens when you put a Liberal or an NDP mayor in power. They raise taxes, they cut police budgets, they allow crime to run rampant, they flood the city with taxpayer-funded drugs, and everyone, all the law-abiding, hardworking, tax-paying people pay the price. So I encourage Torontonians to vote for someone who will support the police, keep taxes low, and get out of the way so builders can build affordable homes.
Well, it's weird how, like, first of all, under Rob Ford, none of these things happened, getting out of the way of developers and affordable housing. Under Doug Ford, who's been the fucking premier of Ontario since 2018, housing has just gotten more and more unaffordable, yet they don't get painted with that same brush. If Doug Ford's great pro-business policies were so wonderful and it was leading to this affordable housing, where is it? It's been 5 years. It's been 5 years and housing has just gotten more and more expensive. Where's the problem exactly? Like, where are these conservative policies finally going to start working in the way that they say that they're going to do? Builders just love building cheap homes because they love making less money. Exactly. Just being a desiccated husk that loves to hear themselves talk. It do be like that. Absolutely. Mark Slipinski, Toronto already is now a cesspool of crime. It'll only get worse under Olivia Chow wants to defund the police. These genre videos are always funny where they're just like, it's like a Shoppers. Like a few people doing some shoplifting in Shoppers Drug Mart. And they're like, society has fallen. They just can't handle it. Damn. Jesus, that's really loud and I apologize.
Life's so short. Fuck. I don't want to go to court. Fuck. Got a budget for the lawyer.
Oh no, not Shoppers. Look at this. Look at this cesspool of crime. You know, like people were complaining about how they're framing Toronto as being this like violent crime-ridden dystopia, and like this is what they're talking about. A couple of people filling up bags in Shoppers Drug Mart. Mark Slipinski from Toronto99.com. So here's the real kooks. Here's the real kooks, the Toronto 99 people. Chinese asset Olivia Chow wins. Communist cheer as Toronto falls under communist rule. If you thought that my title there was like, you know, hyperbole or whatever, this is literally what some people are saying. alleged Chinese asset. Mark Slipinski. This is so weird. Chow won the race despite the fact her husband was caught by Toronto police with a suspected prostitute in 1996. And I do remember that scandal, but that's such a weird thing to fixate on. Like, look at the headline versus the actual thing, versus the actual article. Communist cheer as Toronto falls under communist rule. And it's like, alleged Chinese asset, her husband, who is now deceased, so I don't know what this has to do with anything anyways, was caught with a suspected sex worker 27 years ago. You know? Is that really something that we should be that concerned about? I don't know. I don't really think so. These are really strange people. Toronto99.com. Showing these kinds of images. That's what the fine journalists at Toronto99.com are doing. Meanwhile, Tory was bonking his junior 2 months ago, and they're cool with it. It's one of the biggest crimes of the John Tory mayorship is that he made us all think about John Tory having sex, which was just very upsetting. Yeah, they don't care, or they probably think that like he's like a far left radical as well. Here's what this absolute loser Chris Guy is saying about it. This is a couple weeks ago.
Olivia Chow is up there. I'm going to make everything more affordable. What's her background? She has an art degree. People that have been running government.
What's your background,
for
Chris?
many years. These are people that have never run a business. These are people that have never been successful. These are people that don't know how
This
to
is
make
literally
money
his parent. This man's
or
parents are
manage
rich.
money.
Yeah.
So how?
This guy's dad is rich. That's all. His dad is like a real estate developer. That is all. John Tory literally called his dick the CN Tower. He should have gone to jail for that. I did not know that. And I think you should actually go to jail for saying that and having me read those words. Actually. Is the government like a business? Should it be run by like a business? No, it should not. It should not be run like a business or a family budget.
How do you expect them to manage a city? Olivia Chow is up there. I'm going to make everything more affordable. What's her background? She has an art degree.
Okay, we already saw that. You're just repeating yourself already. I'm going to take one shot at seeing if I can some more rich veins of wacko kook content here. I'm checking Rumble. If you want to know what I'm doing right now, I'm checking Rumble to see if we can find on there. This guy's so maddeningly fucking annoying and shitty, but sometimes it's just like we need to look at that kind of stuff, don't we?
But in the meantime, let's just start.
You know me, I'm walking in downtown Toronto. You can see the beautiful city behind me right there. I have a meeting that got postponed, and it was going to throw me off for the show. So I decided to come in early and talk to you guys. I hope you can hear me okay.
This is from a month ago.
Okay, I hear you great. So I'm literally just walking the street downtown. I'm dressed up because I had to go to a couple different meetings. I know you've probably never seen me in a suit and tie. Definitely not a tie.
No, I haven't. Not once.
But I think I pull it off good. What do you think, guys? What do you think?
Yeah, Chris, I think you look fantastic.
No, you don't. You look like shit.
I truly do. So listen, the way that we were going to structure the show tonight, I know that your schedule got all screwed up and whatnot. We were going to have people ask questions tonight, and I know that you don't shy away from questions. I've actually never seen you shy away from a question, nor have I ever seen you deflect any particular question. So I'll start off until the questions start flying in here. I'm going to start off with.
We don't need to look at this whole video because like this guy is just so upsetting to listen to and look at and think about.
You know, whatever. She's now been picked to be the absolute winner. I got to get your take on that commentary by the media and her. Go ahead.
Well, obviously that's complete hogwash. She's not winning this election, and if you look at the mainstream media polls, you have to realize two things. Number one, the mainstream media is government funded, so it's obviously lies and propaganda. Number two, they put anyone they want in those polls, and they conveniently leave me out of those polls.
You can count on me.
Oh, sorry, I just saw the police coming by, so I thought they were about to bother me.
4 months till the highly coveted golden badge.
Marina, thank you very much for the 20 months of Tier 1 and for being part of the community. Thank you, Marina. And you're right, it is just 4 short months away from the highly elite exclusive. I don't know why you put golden in quotes. That's a little unnecessary. It is golden. It's a shimmering golden badge, and you're going to be the proud owner of one in just a few months, Marina. Thank you again. Seriously, thank you.
Yeah.
But the most important part of those polls is there's 2 categories they don't really mention. You actually have to go on the mainstream media website to see it. The 2 categories are other and undecided. And when you add up the other and undecided categories, that's actually the majority of voters for every single poll that they have. And the other candidate is more than likely me. And the undecided people are also
more than likely
because
me. This guy's
they don't
just
like any
really
of the
something
candidates
else.
there. I'm going to give everybody the reality of the election really quick.
Yeah.
Olivia Chow has diehard NDP support of around 70,000 votes. And then depending on how much traction she can get with the mainstream media pushing her like crazy, she's probably going to get somewhere between 70 to 90,000 votes. Okay. Now, in a normal election where the winner would get around 400,000 votes.
Why do I feel like I'm being gaslit by this guy? I don't know. I don't understand at all. He seems perfectly trustworthy, young gentleman to me. Look at this guy. Fine, upstanding individual.
The NDP far left-wing communist Chow loses every time, which she demonstrated every time that she actually tried to run for mayor already and lost in that exact fashion. Now, I'm the wild card because in this by-election, they are saying that they anticipate the lowest number of votes ever in any election. Meanwhile, they have the largest number of candidates ever in any election. And I'm talking about mayoral elections. Therefore, they're saying Olivia Chow is probably going to win because they know that she's good for 70 to 90,000 votes. Meanwhile, they anticipate there's only going to be around 300,000 votes for all the candidates combined. So if she gets 70 to 90,000 of the 300,000, they think there's a good chance she's going to win. Now, there's only one problem for their little plan and their calculations. And it's been the same problem they've had for the last 3 years.
Let's hear it.
And you're looking at them. It's me. The reality is my base of support is from age 18 to 100 plus. Men, women, it doesn't matter. Even left-wing people that are wearing a mask and are triple jabbed still are showing me support.
No, they're not, sir.
My actual base of support among the voting base of Toronto is probably around 400 plus thousand people. And I'm not exaggerating that number. The only problem is,
Yes, you are, sir.
well, Olivia Chow's support is guaranteed to vote virtually because they're the ones that vote all the time, every time. My base of support, the vast majority of them are the ones that don't normally vote. So we have the potential of winning an
No, you don't,
absolutely historical, record-breaking landslide election.
No, you do not, sir. This man looks like he's on an apartment dog breed restrictions list. Yeah, the teeth. The teeth are really something else. See, normally if you go one-on-one with another candidate, you got a 50-50 chance of winning. But I'm a genetic freak, and I'm not normal. So you got 25% at best to beat me. Then you add Jack Layton to the mix. Your chances of winning drastically go down. See, the three-way in Toronto, you got a 33 1/3 chance of winning. But I got a 66 2/3 chance of winning because Jack Layton knows he can't beat me, and he's not even going to try. Olivia, you take your 33 1/3 chance minus my 25% chance. You got an 8 1/3 chance of winning in Toronto. Then you take my 75% chance of winning. If he was to go one-on-one, then that's 66 2/3%. I got 141 2/3 chance of winning in Toronto. See, Olivia, the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you in Toronto. Thank you, Jay. One of the best promos. Really one of the best I can't listen to this man anymore. He's so bad. Chris Sky. Another person who should not have free speech. You've heard of free speech absolutists. I'm not one. I don't believe in the absolute right to free speech. And if it were up to me, Chris Sky would be indeed jailed for his beliefs and political views and speech. And I, Rob Russo, endorse this policy. Here's Rebel News. The radical new mayor.
Daily Round. The intellectual capital of the left today. Give me a break. You are now watching the Daily Roundup. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Daily Roundup on this, a Tuesday, June 27th, 2023. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you
this is not even Ezra Levine, it's the B team.
Folks, you know that today is Spock's birthday, and my co-host, she has promised to set her phasers on fun. See what I did there? She is the she-devil with a sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is Sheila Gunn Reid. How you doing there, Sheila?
I'm great. How do you know it's Spock's birthday? The usual website that I go to that tells me what sort of stupid day it is, created by Hallmark, it doesn't have his birthday listed there.
Unbelievable. Isn't there a place in Alberta called Vulcan and they have Star Trek days?
Yes, there's Vulcan, and you can go to Vulcan and you can put your head in like the little thing and be Spock. Actually, I have some pictures.
These are probably people that are like, when did Star Trek get so woke? When did Star Trek decide to engage in this kind of like political messaging?
Me doing that. So you can go to Vulcan and do that, but we also have St. Paul where there's the UFO landing pad. So
this is for sure a TV show on RoboCop.
Preaching
Absolutely.
to the choir. I spent 2 years in St. Paul. That's where I started my journalism career. I offended a lot of people because I called NASA in Florida, which was a hefty long-distance call back in the 80s. The kids don't know how great they have it today with free long distance. But I was calculating what the weight is of a space shuttle, and if they were to land it on that landing pad, well, it would crush the landing pad. And
it wasn't for them. It was for the aliens. Honestly.
Well, their flying saucers weigh something too. I mean, I had to base it on something.
Our conservatives are not sending their best.
I got off to a really good start pissing off people in my journalism career.
And it's been a real love affair ever since. It's also national.
What do you think the average age is of the person that watches this?
And I do know that my sunglasses
75,
divide
I think,
the
probably.
internet because being from Alberta and being, affiliated with the oil patch, I love me a good pair of pit vipers. And people either love my pit vipers or they super hate them. So I get
Yes, it's Canadian right-wing
fan
stuff.
mail on the pit vipers, but equal parts hate mail, and I don't care.
What do those look like, Sheila?
Really? If you look in the Faye Johnstone video, I have those pit vipers in like 5 different colors.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a
Yeah.
Serengeti man, and I bought a new pair. They're called Nicholson's. I absolutely love Serengeti sunglasses. And for my cycling, I have a pair of genuine Oakleys. Oh, wait a minute. Those look
Are you actually going to talk about?
too big. I don't know.
I'm doing the Jeff Goldblum thing in Jurassic Park. No, eventually you are going to have news on your news program. What are they talking about? I don't know. I do kind of like those sunglasses. I'm not going to lie. I don't think they look great on her, but I would wear a pair of sunglasses like that for sure. I'm sorry to say. I know the chat disagrees. I love ridiculous sunglasses though, so I do support that. I do support that. It is funny how the Islamophobe network suddenly loves Muslims. I was noticing that. I mean, the big thing that Rebel News has done throughout the last throughout its existence is like spread these Islamophobic conspiracy theories in the same way they're doing about China now, about Chinese influence in our society and the evil Chinese Communist Party. They were doing it about Muslims, 5 years ago or so. I mean, even when there was the Quebec City mosque shooting here in Quebec, they were immediately framing that as being some kind of like Islamophobic false flag type situation. And now because like they're able to kind of use this wedge in the culture war and they're fixating on gay and trans people and pride and all that, now all of a sudden they support these Muslim communities, the ones that are reactionary against LGBTQIA plus rights. Should I actually have to go soon? I kind of lost track of time here. I got to go in a couple minutes. I'll see if they actually say anything about Olivia Chow.
On me. They're very practical
I'll have to
and
go.
stylish. And again, I'll put you in the don't like them box. But there are people.
The surname of our new Her Honor, Olivia Chow, someone that brags about not having a driver's license. Think about that as you watch new bike lanes go up already, all over this already gridlocked city. I wouldn't put it past Olivia Chow to put bike lanes on the Gardiner Expressway, assuming she's not going to tear it down. That was one of her promises, too.
I don't think that's accurate.
Sheila, I hope I'm wrong. I pray I hope I'm wrong. I still have there's a bit of my heart that's still in Toronto. It's the city of my birth. I used to be the biggest Toronto booster. I can't bear to see what's happening to Toronto right now.
Yep.
It's becoming Portland North, San Francisco North. San Francisco used to be such a beautiful place to visit. Now it's a very neat place to, defecate on. This is where we're headed with Toronto. I think under Olivia Chow, nothing's going to be done about gridlock because, she's going to ride her bike to work every day. You're going to see
what
more
were the conservatives that
cycling
were
lanes
running the
put
city
in.
and running the province
You're gonna
doing about this up till now?
More
That's what these
of what
motherfuckers,
we see in
these
Allen Gardens
red-faced
right
motherfuckers
now,
never want to talk
which
about.
is a park that is completely verboten to the community to visit, the normal tax-paying citizens, because there are violent homeless people taking it over. You're going to see more so-called safe injection sites pop up. So expect
God
to,
forbid we try to do
maybe
anything
what
about
you
the opioid epidemic that's actually like killing, people around this country. It's been an absolute epidemic throughout Canada and the United States. Heaven forbid we actually do something about that besides throw money at police.
What you want to do is keep your eye on the sidewalk when you're walking so you don't step on a used syringe. Like I said, Sheila, I hope I'm wrong. I don't suspect I am. In terms of the housing crisis, we've always been told that Toronto's going to build more affordable housing. And that's exactly who I want building more affordable housing, Sheila, because the worst landlord in Toronto is the city of Toronto. You look at the city-run housing, it's a disaster. So why
Gotta
not
give it
build
more to those
But,
real
I
estate
think of,
developers.
I mean,
That's
and
gonna be
also, if you look
affordable.
at our platform, Sheila, 3 of the planks are anti-landlord. So that's not going to spur on more, I guess, organic growth by the private sector of housing. I have a friend, Lou Skizas, business analyst. He's got a great
What is
line,
the wood
Sheila.
paneling in
there
this
are
set?
2 ways to destroy a city. One is a nuclear bomb. The other is rent control. And you're going to see Olivia Chow double down on rent control, which means nothing's going to be built. And also, one of our platform planks,
Rent control is going to really destroy the city.
Something to help the homeless.
That's going to make it affordable.
About building more waiting pools, which you can use for about 3 months in the city of Toronto. And to show you the folly of that, this is the last thing I'm going to say, Sheila, and then I want you to weigh in with your Albertan viewpoint. At Yonge Dundas Square, there are these very interesting mini fountains built into the ground. They go up 2 or 3 feet. So on a hot summer day...
I really hate the dichotomy, though, between complaining endlessly about the homeless and then any remote suggestion to make housing more affordable is deemed as some kind of like socialist plot. Like, you're complaining about the homeless, and then any suggestion of like actually housing people or making housing more affordable is deemed as this like terrifying plot that's going to destroy the city. Even rent control, even the idea of rent control, like the idea that Toronto should like publicly subsidize housing, that's going to destroy the city. Rent control, that's going to destroy the city. All that we can do is lower taxes for property developers and landlords. And mysteriously, that's the only housing policy that these people will ever support or agree to, which only increases the homeless population, which they fucking detest so much. You know, all the people do. They complain about the homeless and complain about any possible policy that might potentially impact the number of homeless people. And in fact, only support housing policies that will only increase the number of unhoused people in Toronto or wherever else.
Like this, you see children running through those little fountains. And it's a lot of fun, or it was a lot of fun, because now at sunset, you see those fountains used to run 24/7. But when the darkness takes leave, Sheila, the fountains stop running. And I asked a security guard there, I said, what happened to these little dancing fountains embedded into the ground? And he told me,
This is some
Sheila,
guy, Rob Russo,
at
some
nighttime,
leftist
they
based in
have to shut
Canada.
them off
I
because
was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Hello, Majority Report Raiders. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining the stream. I'm Rob. Nice to see you. Thank you for coming over. Get in, Raiders. Please smash the follow button if you can. Hey, look at this face. Doesn't this look like someone that you want to follow here on twitch.tv? Please, if you can't follow. I do have to leave soon. We're just looking at deranged right-wing media here in Canada to talk about the Toronto mayoral race, where a very kind of moderate, mildly progressive mayoral candidate won. And of course, people on the right are freaking out like Mao himself has been resurrected and is about to start executing landlords in the middle of Toronto city center, which is something that, a policy that I don't want to say on here on Twitch that I support, but I think is something that we should maybe take a look at, just to take a look at and maybe have a conversation about it. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, we're just taking a look at this deranged freakout. I have to go in just a few minutes, so I don't have a lot more time. We're going to raid elsewhere in a few more moments, but let's look at more of this incredibly bizarre video before I head off. Thanks again for the raid, and please, once again, folks, either gently press this follow button, press it normally, smash it, whatever level of forcefulness you want to use. Please follow the channel. Join the community if you can. I appreciate every one of you. Thanks for the raid again. I hope the Majority Report stream was good today.
What's happening, and this is right at Yonge Dundas Square, literally the town square of the city of Toronto. Homeless people were coming up to them, dropping their drawers and using them as bidets.
I don't think that's true, first of all. Number one, I don't think it's true. Number two, give housing, make sure unhoused people have housing. Number two. So number one, that didn't happen. Number two, get people into housing if you don't want to have unhoused people in your public infrastructure, your public parks or fountains. And number three, have public bathrooms. Have public bathrooms that people can use. When you have unhoused people in your city, they don't have anywhere to go to the bathroom. They need public bathrooms. But yeah, if these people are so concerned about unhoused people hanging out in public places and parks and fountains or whatever, make sure people have housing. That's the solution. But of course, anything that actually goes in that direction, pushes things in that direction, these people have pants-shitting freakouts over. So that shows how coherent their whole political and worldview is.
I swear to you. So Olivia Chow wants to build
I
more
don't believe
wading
you.
pools. Yeah, I don't think she's done the math. She better talk to the security guards down at Young Dundas Square. Sheila, what do you think about Miss Chow becoming mayor?
Well, I can't believe that's like one of her key issues is to build more bird baths for homeless people. Like, who's asking for more wading pools? Who's asking for this? But I think you're in for like a wild ride.
It wasn't that
she's
funny,
vowing
sir.
to be even more progressive than Toronto is already, and that would be very hard to do. I always joke
Under
that
the progressive
Edmonton
socialist leadership of
is
John Tory.
Toronto West, but it seems to me that Toronto is quickly going to become like Seattle East.
Yep.
But the idea that you have a fully grown adult woman who's in charge of building the roads now and deciding city planning, who doesn't have a driver's license, it is so perfectly left-wing
These people are
that
so stupid.
it is just chef's kiss. It's the same thing we see with gun control legislation, where you have people who have never even used a firearm making legislation about gun control. And the gun control, like gun advocates, we joke, we say it's just like people who've never driven a car deciding where the roads are going to go.
You know, I kind of regret that I waited this long to find this clip. I think this is the exact vein of insane conservative reactionary shit that I was hoping to find. I really have to go soon though, folks. So I'd just like to ask one more time, while they got 300 viewers here, great time if you've ever wanted to give subs or even gift a couple subs. Great time to do so, to potentially bring more people into the community. And folks, remember, if you do enjoy
use the
this
computer
show,
to mark up the
if you want to support
size
the work
of the
that I do
account.
here on Twitch, please, if you can, subscribe to TRRS. It's really, really helpful. It's $5 per month. It's completely free of charge with an Amazon Prime account. And you get some of the very best tiny little images on the entire platform of Twitch. So if you can, I gotta go in like 2 minutes. And I would love to see, if possible, the little number at the bottom of the screen.
You can count on me. You're going to
Go
have
up
good
just a
old
little
Rob
bit.
to talk you through all this.
Just a little bit. Thank you, Baldwin. Thank you, Baldwin's Ghost, for the 2 gifted subs. That's very kind of you. I really appreciate that. This is just stupid. I agree, it's very stupid. But sometimes it's good to look at really stupid stuff to understand what some of the people that we're sharing a society with are thinking and saying. I think it's important. You have any other takers, folks? Any other takers? Does any brave hero want to step forward right now and give a gift to me and the community?
You can count on me. You're going to have
of
good
a few
old
gifted
Rob
subs
talk
to
you
bring
through
in
all
more
this.
people.
The
bring in more
Friendship
community
Triangle
members.
welcomes all.
Thank you, Up the Reds. That's exactly right. Thank you for the 17 months of Tier 1. The Friendship Triangle. That's Twitch's only 2-dimensional triangle-shaped trickle-down clout and friendship access tiered reward system. It's the only such system that exists on this entire platform. So there's still time. I'm going to go raid now because I really have to leave and I don't want to be late. But there is still time, folks, to subscribe to TRRS. Some brave hero could step forward and put a little bit more of a dent into this sub goal. I know there's a brave hero out there that could do that. Which one do I want here? Okay.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Quiet One, for the gifted sub.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
And thank you to Not My Password for the gifted sub. Very, very kind of you. Thank you for that.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
And thank you, Vlad the Victor, for the gifted sub. Okay. There are a few brave and generous
use the computer
heroes.
to mark up the size of the account.
The triangle welcomes all, almost all, but you fascist MFers get the wall. And you're going to be lined up against the wall, and we're going to admonish you and insult you. And that's all. That's all that's going to happen. Don't worry about it. Hey, so to the new raiders as well and new chatters, what do you think about the spinny globe? Isn't that fancy? Pretty cool, huh? Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow, folks. Thank you for watching. I really got to run now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. I'll see you tomorrow. Give my regards to Doc Hollywood. Doc's doing a fundraiser right now. Really cool guy and cool streamer. Give Doc my regards. I'll see you tomorrow.